necessity,
What's that?
and that would be what?
To do it in a kind way.
Like all expenses paid?
Is that the tone for the way?
Yeah.
That'd be
Keep
okay.
doing it the same way I'm doing it, Jack.
Well, no,
Well, I'm just trying to help.
I mean, that's great, except.
that if you-
Thanks, but no thanks.
Okay. Just trying to set the tone of the meeting.
Fine. It's not a good thing. Now we're waiting for at least 8 years. Nothing to know what happens.
Oh, boy.
How's your end?
Good. Every time I change, and it's like a timeline.
When you come back.
Where's me?
I'll stay down.
Well, my guess is, I think the funniest one I had.
You're asking.
Oh, yeah.
Friday.
No, I didn't.
Friday night.
Pardon?
I didn't. Probably not a bad idea.
No.
We had to discuss around the table, even.
Friday.
These
Thursday night,
tables.
Friday night.
We'll talk about it today.
Yeah, they had a
Have
lot
to
of
go back where
Yeah,
you was,
I'll bet
but
you
we had to get into.
good half inch because it was one.
But it, when you got it.
Always necessary.
Because they was.
It's not necessary.
Meeting. I would have kept something to go.
Oh,
Was that how it is?
Well,
And it's like. I don't like that.
But the
Morning.
I left there, by the time I got up to AIM, I could like breathe water.
it was 60.
It was 63 when I left here.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because it was Thursday, must have been Thursday, it was 60 degrees up here. Right around 50. Yeah.
If it snows.
Yeah, it was an interesting conversation. It was formal. Yeah, I need two.
So they keep.
Oh, gas. You know, the.
Bring her around.
Take that out.
Waited this long.
All the insurance rates. Oh.
Yes.
Oh, because it's early. A bit more time.
Bigger one. 3 gallons a month at least. If I grab one. Like I said, we shouldn't use store over. Yeah. Did they?
Closet sometimes. Give her bunches and stuff. Some school offices have 2 or 3 sitting around. Oh.
You gotta do it. Permanent right here.
From one year.
We should probably move those chairs.
But they're big basement stuff now. Out in Bonner, there. I don't know, who said like. Or something. I don't know if that was down there, or somebody said 18 to 19, so I don't know what.
Well, we've had
what
ordinances this year.
but down there it looks, yeah.
Most of the half and yearly.
I don't know.
It's crazy. Keep it down there. I was sitting in South Street.
Never, I mean. In Koshatka, Koshatka was.
What's that? 35.
2 hotels.
They put a new IHG out there in Ankeny that.
And they want $90 million for it. So that, but they want it all done.
You know, this whole thing with the feds about the cutting off, suspending the June. There's all this. There's an article I read. On average, the states are funded by the federal government from between 25% and 79%. Their budgets and everything else have been inflated by all this federal money coming in there. It's all printed out of thin air. The reality when that hits may really impact things. 39% of your income is federal money.
Monday.
How do you
Gray
really work with
Monday.
that?
With the pending temperatures going down.
Yesterday was beautiful
Yeah. The narcotic.
I'm not sure.
That free.
Somebody's
federal money,
afraid.
Free, yeah.
Whatever. Ben didn't know either. To bring it up in the meetings, we can all talk.
Yes, 42. They was got a gas war. Sam's Club.
They bust.
Yeah, they had 242 on Wednesday. It was
Where's that at?
Sam's Club.
There's 40 cents less than here.
Diesel, I was up in Rochester yesterday, and diesel in Rochester was 32 cents less than here. Gas was only 10. I don't know what Costco was, but
It's 289 and oh, it's in chat room. Which is 20 cents cheaper than there.
big difference.
Morning, Ben.
Big difference.
It's just so bizarre.
Yeah, this is just. Oh,
They can go on.
They're 20 sometimes, 30 something.
Well, it is 9:30, all of it's so true. We stand for the finish.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order with everyone present. This meeting is being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, you should leave the meeting. First item on the agenda this morning, Jon Lubke, our IT and GIS Director with the Copier Contract.
Or not.
Well,
Yeah, we've been at this for maybe 6 months or so, and just when thought I was ready to make a decision, recommendation, I got a little more information, so I think if it's all right with the board, I'll just go ahead and table it for another week or two, and then we'll take a little harder look at things and come back and present again, so.
Okay.
This will just allow you to get going quicker on your meeting and.
Yeah.
So, do you have any other questions for me?
How many machines are we talking in this contract?
Right, there's about 21 altogether, and so we have machines at the courthouse, we have them at the law center and at public health. A lot of them are the bigger units, a few are the smaller units like you have there in the corner. We've been with Rico for many years. I think we're just finishing up a 2-year extension on a 5-year contract, and before that we had Rico. When we were kind of looking, or when the vendors did their walkthroughs, we had kind of a couple goals. One is to maybe stay with something that's that the users are currently used to, which would be Rico. Cost is always our biggest concern. Service is probably our other big concern. Just when the system is down, people can't work. And we've had that a little bit in the last year or two. Where the system might be down for a day or two, and that causes fairly big headache. So service is probably the biggest concern after price. So,
Was there a difference in cost per unit? I mean, black and white and color.
right. Not really. I mean, the price has come down. We were paying like 5 cents and 10 cents for I guess 8 cents per color. And those prices have come down. The consumables have come down.
It's
Also-
the per copy price,
Yeah,
but the
right.
machine itself. is-
No, I was talking about per copy price.
Yeah, the machines in general, I think they're a little more expensive, but they can be $3,500 to $5,500 a piece if you were gonna buy them. Currently, we do own a few machines.
So we lease most of these contracts would be to lease the machines, so.
You get rid of the ones we own, or
We would just recycle those into places like conservation or recycling. Conservation's real good.
Of the 21, I think there's only a handful that we actually own. Most of them are leased, so they'd be going back anyway.
And that's the other thing with the lease is because we basically copy and scan sensitive information, we have to make sure that those systems are wiped. Currently, the systems are configured so that if you scan something, it deletes it automatically. But just as another security layer, we want to make sure that those get sent back to Rico and formatted. So,
Now, the large format printer we have in the secondary roads, that's not part of this contract, is it, or is it?
no, the plotter would not be. It's a separate item. We own that and we have it serviced once a year. So
And
this
it's
would
pretty low
be,
by comparison, it's low volume.
the other thing we wouldn't buy lease copiers or laser printers for would be the shops. So the secondary road shops, we tend to buy them inexpensive equipment just because it's such a dirty environment. They don't last well. So just easier to buy a cheap laser printer and use it for 3, 4, 5 years. And when it dies, we get a new one.
One of the biggest cost savings when we get the new ones going, it's a good opportunity to educate the users to
click the black and white. Because if you're, like the agenda, when the first one I print out, the link to go on the watch or go online is in blue. So the first one I print is in blue. So if I just put that in the copy machine, we'd pay, it's like 5 times as much per copy. 5 cents instead of 1 cent or whatever, less than a cent. So that's why they're in black and white then for the other ones. So just to make sure, and a lot of them default to black and white automatically, you have to intentionally choose
I got
color.
my computer set that way.
Some don't.
Yeah.
And I was gonna bring that up. I mean, that's a small savings, but it is a savings if we would just put a moratorium or some conscious restriction that people need to.
And I think we can
And
do
printing
that.
in general. I mean,
Yeah, we can do that through educating our users. Few of our printers are only monochrome printers, like the one where we're behind where Lynn sits, what we use for payroll and such, is a higher volume printer, but so it can go do more pages, but we just get a black and white one because we never do anything color in that one. So
Yeah, it was good for me to go through the process too, just to know, what we have and how many prints each office does, things like that. So this contract is typically, or the expense is taken out of the general line item for the whole county. So
yeah, we don't try to break it down per office.
it would take more time to try to break it out and get each office to pay for their little portion. So the process was to go around and talk to everybody and see how their printing needs had changed. We did reduce a few places, public health, we took out some lasers. I think maybe the law center, we might have reduced one. So, yeah,
That's an email, puts a different wrinkle in it for your research.
so we'll just keep going. Right now, we're just month to month with our old contract, so we can do that for a little while longer.
What is the typical life of a copier, about 5, 6 years?
Yeah, we've noticed a little more having more issues the last year or two. But yeah, they could probably go, another couple of years at least. Some of them, some really get used a lot though.
And that's why we lease, because then we can just know that after every 4 or 5 years, we're just gonna get new ones again. So
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, Michael Kueny, County Engineer, Road Department updates.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so since last meeting, Winneshiek County is a finalist for the RAISE grant. Yes, and it is now called a build grant of the Trump administration. And that's in the highlight right there. The W14 south of Fort Atkins submitted project, and the Service Bureau submitted to the federal government about 8 p.m. on January 29th. Railroad flat car bridge study is continuing, progress continuing to be made there. Subdivision gap is on the back burner, but still in sight. Union negotiations occurred on the January 28th.
Michael, you may be getting some contact. I ran into one specific supervisor down at the ISAC meeting, and they struggle with some of their bridges, and so they're very interested in your bridge study.
Okay.
Railroad car bridge study.
They talked to Kirlover over at Buchanan County because it'll be very similar to his. So they could short circuit it to Alex. I can't remember Alex's last name, but he and Brian are the experts there. So if you want to reach out, I can reach out to them as well on that.
I'll have to track it down. They're a much smaller county, and they're faced with some serious issues because of all of the tax revenue stuff and so forth. So
Yeah, the span length per $1 is what you're really going for on the railroad blacktop bridges.
So
So
they're faced with, I think he said they had $14,000 worth of new money. Would you like to be sitting there, Vince?
that's scary. Ridgeway shop improvements, the boiler installation is still left. Last I heard, it's about a couple weeks out, the proverbial 2 weeks. Maintenance activities for 2025 are being coordinated. I had that discussion, not last Friday, but the Friday before. I'm gonna start mapping out who's gonna be where for the summer. Bridge 126 concept plan checklist was submitted for review to the DOT. The county is looking for a special variance on that due to the geometry. Bridge 208E is on track for a March letting and a May start date. So we are looking forward to.
That's the one south of Jackson.
Correct.
Like mid-May.
I'm forgetting off the top of my head what we said was start date, late start date, but May is when we have.
How long
Roughly.
would that project roughly take, you think, or?
Well, you have to wonder what happens with the
Whether.
well, the weather, but even the special considerations for the native tribes.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a big
Yeah, 'cause he's
wrench.
just wondering, he has planned right on the other side of the.
That
bridge.
is,
And I told him I thought May something might be start date, so. he said,
yeah,
"Well,
I don't know what the late
finish
start.
date before harvest then, I said, I don't know, but hopefully, yeah, he said the harvest would be way worse than the plan, because he'd have to haul all the way.
No,
He'd have to drive like 10 miles around.
If it's in harvest, then we've got worse problem than he does.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Cold mix has been applied to B32 rough spot. The rough road signage has been installed on Frankville Road. These roads been getting an abnormal amount of complaints, and we are aware of the road conditions, and we will be looking to make them as easy to travel as possible. And during the summer. And then some communication on the Nesty Valley Campground and the work that we've done internally. Auditor and Hacker Nelson find that the county workers can do grading for the Nesty Valley Campground, which is nice. So that'll be a part of our maintenance activities, so what I'm looking to do for that. So
We had to ask, because if they couldn't pay out of the general fund budget, the road department to do maintenance activities, because then it would apply towards our transfer of funds, which were already maxed. But since this is grant money in their capital improvement budget, they can pay the road department to do the work. So rather than having to contract an outside entity, we can get some more money for their department, plus save some on the cost.
On the cost.
So I'm gonna have to figure out I have to figure out the contracts and the plans. I think we have all of the grading and everything else figured out. And just be working with Barb on that to get it finished from here on out. But that's the idea, is that we would grade it and most likely have a contractor come in and put the rock on. So.
I did reach out to your staff, to Dana, and ask her if we could get a sign count.
Yep, and I forgot to bring that with me, but based off of memory, there's 45 signs and we're running about $2,000.
Yeah, FYI, in conversation down there in Des Moines, it looks as if there's legislation that'll be submitted to raise the state highway speed limit to 60, just like Minnesota. And so I was asking because they wanted, Clemish asked me that if we could find out roughly what, like for our county, what the cost would be for the sign change from 55 to 65. We don't have a lot of signs on roads like that, but it does have a statewide impact.
Yeah, and I'm saying that now and I'm thinking the sign count doesn't quite make sense with that dollar total, so just come check with me.
No, yeah, I'm not.
I-
We'll just get an email off to him, because I think it's well past,
Mhm.
due occurring, so.
Is it all, even is it paved secondary roads too, or just highways?
I have not
Bill.
seen, I have not seen the bill. I'll get informed of it when I
Because if
need
it's
to.
only excuse me. If it's only the highways, then we don't have any signs, right? Because those.
Yeah, if it's only,
DOT.
Yeah.
if it's only state highways, then we
I
would not
think
be
it's gonna
included.
be, I think it's gonna be the state speed limit will be max 60. I'm not sure on the verbiage, but I
Yeah.
can find out from Mike, because I don't know that the bill has been introduced, but he will be the one introducing it, is what I understand, so
Okay,
it has a fairly good chance of passing.
I mean, if it's my preference, I'd just say, keep the county roads at 55. We don't have the same, clear zones as the state highways. But, I'm saying that loosely. I don't,
Some of them you can't even drive at 50.
Don't have to worry about it.
don't remind me, please.
I wasn't examining you.
I didn't take it that way. Just, it could be taken that way. And I had to make fun of it, so. Yeah, yeah, that's my report. So, anything that you have for me for this week?
Does the county have a policy on removal of signs, like children at play, the next 1,500 feet, or school bus stop ahead? I mean, they're old and rusted, and it's like, I wonder if children even live there. So what's the point? I mean,
Right.
it's kind of a nuisance, and I sort, and if you're going back to, should the county have a policy of somebody has to buy the sign, we'll install it, or we went back to this other issue before?
Yes, I have not followed up on getting that, to, something reasonable to you guys, and I need to do that.
Because I was driving by a place yesterday, and it's like, they're almost rusted beyond reading, and it's like, well, I don't think children probably live there.
We have a six county meeting coming up next month.
I haven't seen
I haven't
anything.
seen any.
I haven't seen anything on,
It's usually quarterly, so.
yeah,
It would be allocated.
yeah. it should be
All of our
able to-
required signs, the speed limits
Yeah,
and curves and stuff get replaced every 10 years. That's our
Yeah.
rotation. But all of those other miscellaneous warnings or brown signs that are just
Yeah.
telling about what, parks or stops,
Yeah.
those are not required signs, so they don't have the same reflectivity rules, so they don't get replaced nearly as much.
yeah, they don't get.
Well, I just, like I said, I think it's, if you see it so often, it doesn't have an effect, and so for,
Right.
they don't need to be there, you should probably remove them.
I agree, and I don't, our sign software doesn't say, oh, the reason this is here is,
No.
this
Yeah.
person lives here. It's, we put this in here and it becomes part of a normal routine, which those signs are kind of special circumstances, so.
Okay, if some that are worn out, you could just take them down and then make sure we notice the public that if it's one that needs to be replaced, we would have to, hopefully after we put this policy into place, what we need to do to get it replaced.
It is in my queue of things to do, but I have not followed through on it, so
Because I think people should, somebody said, oh, I think we should get that out and then take it down.
No, it's-
Policy.
yeah, there needs to be
Or
something,
one.
there needs to be something more transparent.
Yeah.
And,
Process.
yeah.
On our,
I was gonna, on certain signs like that, when they're doing, what they're doing with the GIS system, they might put an expiration date field in there on certain signs that we can pull these after
10
X.
10 years or 8.
Yeah, and that would be coordinated with the circumstance.
Really?
Yep, the circumstance of the GIS, and that's,
Or even if it's a shorter time, you could maybe pull it and reuse the sign if you have a new place.
correct. So,
I had dust control, I don't know if the guy called or not. Can a person put his own dust control down, or does it gotta be through a certified?
they could put their own dust control down, but they have to get that our permit because we have to.
Yeah.
We have to work through, when.
Yeah, I said but I didn't know if there was a certain product you could or couldn't use.
Basically, it's the tree sap or the calcium chloride, and there's one other. But most people use the tree sap around here. Other counties, the most common one is the calcium chloride.
I told him you'd have to contact the.
You can't just take a barrel of used motor oil and spray it out.
I get that question.
All the time, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, when I say the office gets that question quite often, and.
We end up right, yeah, end up right in our water, so.
Well, that happened by Waterloo a number of years ago. They oiled the road and it had PCBs in the oil. And so they had to dig up the whole road, bury it.
So,
I mean, it wasn't like,
I just don't
it was
call
many
the
lines.
office. I knew you had to get a permit.
yeah, it's a
But
permit.
I didn't know the product.
Yeah, it's the lignin sulfate and the calcium chloride are the two products that are used most common around here. And I think in our permit, we have a third allowable.
have you ever, is the tree sap or the calcium chloride is one a better product, do you think, from a maintenance?
From a maintenance standpoint, I kind of lean towards the calcium chloride because it kind of provides a base stabilization. But that being said, it's chloride, so if it, some people don't like that in the nearby, ground, because it's, the tree sap, doesn't have it doesn't regenerate, whereas the calcium chloride will, stabilize and so yeah, so it's kind of one of those trade-off kind of a thing. I don't have a strong preference either way on that.
One's
So,
more identifiable than the other.
oh yeah, yes, you don't have to necessarily put those stakes in. So, anything else?
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
I'll pass these, they're copies of the applications and cover letters and resumes for your interviews tomorrow, in case anyone wants to review them ahead of the interviews. Have them. I already gave a copy of each one. Each person's in a stack, so you'll take one out of each paper clip. All right. Here, why don't I take the paper? Let's take the paper clip off and just take one and pass it on type deal.
Give me that. I have to adjust the schedule. Might not have seen my emails. Scheduled interviews, 3, 4, 5. I know, I sent an email that. All right.
Where are you going?
Because I didn't put the names of the schedule, I just put interviews.
We've got an opening 4 minutes right now. Who required the fence? Do we know?
I'm sorry.
Who asked for the fencing?
Oh, John Halverson put those up, so we've got a defined aisleway and walkway at the front. He and I talked about it since he's the building's maintenance man.
And what's the purpose for it?
So we maintain an aisleway here. If we don't maintain an aisleway, do you want to deal with the fire marshal?
We have any, what's the consent agenda, Ben?
We've got the minutes and some liquor licenses here. Let me get, there's quite a few of them actually.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Yes, Pinter's Gardens and Pumpkins, Oneo Golf and Country Club, and Silvercrest Golf Club.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous.
I had a update from County Social Services that the state, it looks like state agencies will cover some of those costs. They said that might be referred back to the county for transport and medication, stuff like that. It's not final yet, but there was a meeting. It's been recorded. It's online of what the proposal is for that. So it's probably not going to be as bad as I first thought on that. But it, the whole state of county social services, because of consolidation, is kind of still up in the air.
Yeah. Clemish was interested. I had a conversation with him down at Des Moines, because of his involvement with, he's the chairman of the Health and Human Services
And that's
Committee
where
for
it's all going
the
back.
state, and he's concerned about how some of these costs are being passed down to the counties.
Yeah.
And he wants to see that change. So he'd asked for some information, like what we are being,
Fighting for
Well-
not doing an unfunded mandate.
yes, exactly. And he's, the different concern is how much we're housing a state office and then required to pay so much of the freight to do so. He doesn't see that, he sees that as an unfunded mandate, so he is looking into that. That's
Be good.
well, actually been good.
Even if we were required to provide the space and they just covered all of the expenses, that would be a savings to us.
Yeah,
I mean, there's probably counties that are still leasing spaces, but most counties have a spot to put them. They just don't, it's all those other, why do we pay their copier? I mean,
Why do we
that's,
buy the paper clips?
yeah. Their copier contract, I think John was looking into whether we should add it into our new one, because having a separate contract is a little more expensive, but
Yeah,
Do you want to tell the group about Clemish's award too?
Oh, yes, thank you, Shirley. The board or the ISAC awards an award each year of friend of the counties. In other words, who in the legislature is, very proactive in working with the counties. And so Mike Clemish was given that award this year. So that's kind of nice that our senator from this region up here is the one that's going to bat and trying to maintain as much, because they brought up in his, bio and announcement, his commitment to local government is 20 years as a mayor and so forth, puts him in a different position. So they're glad to have a voice like that at the state capitol.
Congratulations to him.
Maybe, went through a good presentation. He's very knowledgeable and up on it. And it's not too much. He doesn't understand what's going on, but he's not the only voice, so.
Well, it's 10 o'clock. Next item on the agenda is public hearing for Stenseth zoning request. Good morning, Tony.
Morning, name's Tony Phillips, zoning administrator. We have a rezoning request from Jim Candy, April, and Jeremy Stenseth to rezone a portion of their family farm from A1 agricultural to AR ag residential to build a single family dwelling. Jim and Candy are here.
Good morning.
Move to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
A motion is second to open the public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Public hearing is now open. Any comments, any questions that we have?
Tony, the zoning unanimously approved, recommended the approval of this. Or-
Yes, sir.
For the public.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. How far is it from Kelmer, the city limits?
Quarter mile.
And that,
Be about a half mile.
yeah, and the city water line is in place there that runs on that already.
I have no questions on this. It's very clear. It looks like it makes a lot of sense.
Everything about it seems to be favorable. I move to accept the rezoning. Close public hearing.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor, say aye. Now, if someone wants to take action.
No, that would be to hold the first reading. Action to do the first reading right now. Maybe the next thing.
I move to approve the first reading.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the first reading.
Where is the reading?
We're going to read it.
Here.
He's got a copy of the ordinance there that he's gonna read if you approve the first reading.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
So you approve the reading of,
Yep. So now he can read that.
approve the first reading.
Would you have the ordinance there, Tony, or?
Yeah, I gave it to Dan.
Oh, it's on this one.
We don't have it in front of us.
Oh, here we go. Ordinance amending the county zoning ordinance to change the zoning classification from A1 agricultural district to AR agricultural residential district for the herein described property. Whereas a request for amendment to the zoning ordinance of Winneshiek County was submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and request having been acted upon by the Planning and Zoning Commission following a public hearing. And whereas the request for amendment of the zoning ordinance pertains to the following described real estate. A portion of lot 1B in the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter in section 25 of township 97 north. Range 9 west of the 5th PM, Winneshiek County, Iowa. Whereas the said zoning requested that the property be rezoned from A1 agricultural district to AR agricultural residential district. And whereas a notice of the time and place of a public hearing on said request was published pursuant to law, and whereas a public hearing has been conducted in the Board of Supervisors. Whereas the Winneshiek County Board of Supervisors has considered the Winneshiek County Comprehensive Plan in the review of the applicant's request and does find that the request is consistent with the policies and goals set out in the Winneshiek County Comprehensive Plan. And now therefore be it resolved by the Winneshiek County Board of Supervisors that the zoning classification as to the following described real estate, a portion of lot 1B in the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter in section 25 of township 97 north, range 9 west to the 5th PM, Winneshiek County, Iowa, is hereby changed from A1 agricultural district to AR agricultural residential district. That the zoning map of Winneshiek County, Iowa be modified to reflect this change. Repealer of all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this zoning ordinance or inconsistent with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed to the extent necessary to give this ordinance full force and effect. Observability clause. In any section, part, or provision of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid or unconstitutional, such adjunction should not affect the validity of the ordinance as a whole or any section, provision, or part thereof not adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. Effective date. The ordinance shall be in full force and effect after its passage and publication as provided by law.
Next action would be to waive.
I move to waive the second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the second reading. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously.
Now you can take action to adopt it.
I have a motion to adopt the zoning change.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the zoning request. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Passes unanimously.
Three places for you to sign there, one.
Very much.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Yep.
Thank you.
It looks like a nice place for him.
Thank you.
I'll buy it.
Helps with that city law.
Germs here, the next one is the man.
Between the city of
We don't have to drill a well. Why do I go through there?
Yeah.
Calmer, just kind
Yeah,
of.
cause that goes across there over to Kenya, you know.
Yeah, so Calmer gets another water customer.
Yeah.
They don't opposite their bill.
Mhm. Mhm. So Steve Kelty and I both went down to Des Moines last week for the statewide county supervisors meeting. Some good speakers, good information was shared. The legislature currently has 1,400 bills they're considering that have come up. Usually there's about 1,000. So it's a busy session. They are working on looking at the property tax House File 17 and continuing to study that and consider changes. What do you want to add to this, Steve?
They had one of the speakers, or one session, there was two speakers that were both lobbyists for the state. And that was really an interesting, it was an eye opener on lobbying and the process and the rest of this. It was really good education and very positive.
Those speakers are usually Lucas Binken and Jamie Cashman. Great people to call for stories in the news if you guys are so inclined. They work hard for the counties. They're good lobbyists for us. It was I enjoyed going down there and seeing old friends again from other counties in the state.
Those two fellows have a tough job.
Yep.
Because they're kind of in between. There's not a lot they can do, but everyone's expecting them to make changes and it's not them that can make the changes. So
Changes aren't, when you listen to like Dustin, I forget that one lobbyist, Dustin, who's an attorney, his explanation of how to help bring something to pass, it was really enlightening.
Yeah.
It's quite a process.
All right, 10:10, next item on the agenda, Ray Koshatka, Cemetery Veterans Stipend. Morning, Ray.
Ray Koshatka,
Dustin Miller.
Prison Commander to VFW. What I'm up here about is the stipends that the county gives to the cemeteries. It's at $350. and it
Actually,
has-
it's three. I double checked it.
Oh, it's three?
Three, yep, and it has been since we went back to 1999, and we know it was three then, and probably before that, but that was as far back as we could verify it on the computer.
Well, I'm trying to get that raised because the cemeteries are having real problems as far as mowing and taking care of it. They can't get people for what they pay, you know. Decorah Lutheran got lucky because they got a fellow that has another job and gave them a couple of high school kids that little less money and they're getting it done, but the other cemeteries and stuff too are having problems. And my thoughts is it should be at least doubled that amount. And I know you can't do it all at once, but if a guy does a little bit every year, you know what I mean? And get it up there to help out with that. And another thing is there's more veterans being buried all the time.
How many total veterans are we counting right now in the cemeteries?
I did not look up that number. I think you spend and this is completely off the top of my head, so don't quote me, but I
Yeah.
think it's like 10,000, 8 or 10,000 a year that you spend
Because of the stipend.
because of the stipend.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea, if you double it, it's gonna double that figure.
And some counties don't do a stipend at all.
My understanding is it ranges from no stipend to some counties that do $6 or $7. So, you know, it's,
And
Yeah.
everything in between.
yeah.
But this number's been there for a minimum of 25 years.
Yeah.
And my thoughts is, if you can get it up there and then every 5 years or something, look at it. And, add a little bit or something. Because if it wasn't for all them guys, none of us would be here.
Oh, you're right. Absolutely. There's a reason.
Be speaking German.
Yeah, in other languages.
Yeah, no, 100% right.
Where's the nearest veterans? There's one up cemetery, up in Minnesota, there's.
Yeah, there's-
Preston,
Yeah, Preston is the nearest one.
and then other ones like down Van.
Keokuk, there's
Yeah,
one.
meter.
Yeah, there's one at Keokuk.
And any veteran can be buried in those?
Yes, the one up here at Preston takes care of all of this area. I think it's 400 miles radius, 400 or 500 mile radius. And they would like to expand that. I heard that a farmer gave them 180 acres there besides what they have. Just donating it when he passes away. Which is attached to it, so they'll probably be able to extend it bigger yet, But it's a beautiful place. If any of you've been up there, I don't know.
We need to drive up by, I was just at the one in Van Meter.
It's really
It's
nice.
really, those are really nice.
Anytime you go to, they're open from 8 to 4, but you can drive through it anytime.
Yeah.
And it's really, it reminds me of Arlington, the way it's set up. But that's what I had, guys. That's all I wanted to talk about, but,
No, I think we definitely should take a look at that.
yeah. And like I said, anything you can help, and we don't expect it to be all done at once. You know what I mean?
$1 a year for the next 3 years.
Yeah, something like that. And then after that, look at it 5 years down the line or something and,
Yeah, we could do something.
try to
like
work
that.
something in the budget.
Yeah.
I know the cemeteries would appreciate it, us
Yeah.
veterans would appreciate it. And last year when I was up here and talking about other problems in the cemetery with the plaques, for World War II and all that, we've got that problem solved and we bought equipment and everything. So this spring, we're gonna start drilling into the cement, putting the plaques up and anchoring them and everything, so nothing's on the ground and
Get them away from the mower or stuff.
get them away from the mower and everything, and that'll help cut down the hours of mowing and trimming and everything else, so we're gonna start on that this spring, so
Nice
going
project.
through, yeah. But we're gonna get that done. We got 4 or 5 guys volunteered to help us, so. Had to buy hammer drills and cutting tools but we got it all. And so we're gonna get to that project too.
Yeah, no, we'll take a look at it.
You want to
Yep.
put that on the
Agenda.
agenda coming?
I'll get the exact budget figures so you know what you're talking.
Okay.
Won't take up any more of your time, but I appreciate it, guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
Ray.
coming.
You bet. Thank you.
Any committee reports other than what?
Just that, DHS, they're gonna have a meeting Wednesday, the supervisors are. So then they're gonna get hold of us after that. I contacted her Thursday to see what was going on and have a meeting Wednesday and then get back to us.
Mark and I kind of spoke about that. What I think we may end up just doing is giving them a date. If board, we can make up a
Try to
date
get it.
and just say, hey, this is when it's gonna happen.
Let's get done by March 1st or something, just get cause their IT is ready to go. They want it. Their IT wants to get it done. Yeah. They do have some funds to move too, she said. I'm not sure how, but the dollar amount I could honestly say, but yeah.
Well, the Clemish was aghast that they would want us to move them.
Well, no, they brought that to our attention at this time now.
I was trying to print out.
And there is a gentleman in town that did, when Area and Aging moved, he used to sell them all the cubicles. So he knows how to tear and put them back together. He moved Area and Aging.
Oh,
And he's in town here, so he did that part-time, he just did it on his time,
I
so,
don't want to take them apart. the
Yeah.
wrong way.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's,
have that press board composite and the screw strip so easily.
Yeah,
Yank
so
it
no,
out already.
so I was just gonna bring that up to them, that name too, if they were looking, yeah.
And we can probably find either sports team or road guys or whatever to actually move the physical stuff, but it would be good to have somebody with some expertise on disassembling and assembling.
Assembling, yeah. So, yeah, that's what Chuck had given me the guy's name, so I stopped down there, they got the painting. Looks really good, nice job. He was gonna finish cleaning around the baseboards and stuff, get it all.
It needed some fresh paint.
Yeah. And they appreciated that when he told me we did that, so now it's all ready to,
What had holes in the wall and stuff when it's spackled.
there were a lot of holes, yeah. So. So, yeah, so we should find something out there, hopefully Wednesday or late Wednesday or Thursday on that. Let's get some more information, get that done.
Some good news from, I meant to print out the January report from Northeast Iowa Community Action, but the printer is not working right now. I don't know why. If something pops up, let me know, Alex. Good news from them is the federal funding freeze that sent many nonprofits into a panic last week. They do know that for right now, Head Start is exempt from that. So that is good news for Northeast Iowa Community Action that Head Start has been deemed exempt from the law right now.
Same thing with all the Workforce Development Board programs. They found out that not affected by it.
For now.
But they panicked for
Yeah.
a number of.
I don't think they're done yet, but we'll see where it all ends up. It's good news.
Had a hawk meeting on last Monday and nothing really news to talk about committee reports or provider reports.
Nothing came out.
I've got a workforce meeting on Thursday.
Right on time. Next item on the agenda, Andy Vandermonten, County Attorney. Good morning, Andy.
I was running late.
Here's a recap of appraisal bids or I have the actual documents here, if everyone needs to see that. Have quite a variety of both prices and detail. So,
Or lack of.
or lack of detail, that's right. So the top one on there is the appraisal analyst. They sent this like 9-page document with all the details of what they're gonna do and their certification and their licensure and their insurance. And that's the top one, and their insurance and so on. And then the second one, which, actually in the back there, I got stuck to that one, answered all the questions we had in the RFP on a email, but then we had several of them that were like this was one line. It says, yeah, I can be happy to help you. The fee would be $17.50 and it would be completed by 3/6, and that's all it was. So it didn't acknowledge our requests for keeping it private. It didn't acknowledge any of the other things we asked for in the.
And I'm thinking that the second one, rally appraisal, there was an attachment to that email with the resume of the appraiser also.
The third one had the resume. I don't know if the second one
I
did.
thought the second.
This one might
did
have
too.
too, yeah. It could be. I know I printed it, or I had it for the third one. And some of them had more detailed, like the Cook appraisal had a several page proposal, but it was significantly more expensive, so.
Long story short, I think Ben and I both looked at them and thought either the first two would probably meet your needs.
Where are they, either of those,
Might not.
are they Iowa state companies within Iowa?
We
Yeah.
only sent it to Iowa, people on the list of Iowa certified appraisers that had listed commercial appraisal. This one had, the first one is in Algona, and the second one is in Cedar Falls. The location of the person doing it.
What are we thinking?
Do you have a recommendation, Andy?
You said either the
I'd
first
say either the first two and probably in the order they're listed. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I think either the first two would be fine. I don't know, $400 more for the first one. They obviously did a much more thorough job of sending in their proposal. So if that's any sign of how they will do the appraisal, that. But the second one, I mean, they answered all the questions. They highlighted the fee. They highlighted who was doing the primary point of contact qualifications. It had an attachment with his license, acknowledged the non-disclosure provisions, and gave the March 6th as when they can have it done, so.
Anybody have a coin they can
And-
flip?
Well, we asked that the appraisal be kept confidential.
Yes. Yeah.
I think if you guys, the two of you feel like the first one, I think having a complete, more detailed application is a positive thing.
Put the time in.
I would motion we accept the appraisal analysis.
I second it.
We have a excuse me. We have a motion and a second to accept Appraisal Analyst LLC for the appraisal. Is there any further discussion? None, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you for getting those appraisers. Appraised. Advised.
Surprised of the
Appraised. Opportunity.
You have anything else for us, Andy?
I do not.
Does anyone have anything for Andy?
No, next would come a recommendation, which way should the property, after the appraisal, which would be the proper vehicle to put it on the market?
I think there's 2 or 3 different options. I think having the appraisal might tell us which is the better of those 3.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Is there, like, this thing, is this a fire code legality that we have to do? I think it's more of a tripping hazard than anything else. Do you know?
I don't work
Tripping
for the
hazard.
fire department. I don't know. I don't.
One hat you don't wear.
I think it's up to you how you want to stay at your office. Anything else?
Thank you, Andy.
All right.
Thanks, Andy.
Now we can discuss this. I'm not sure what this all really entails, but it shows products that they've used on the courthouse.
You want to,
Short memorandum.
Thank you, Mike. So then.
that'd be great. I'll let them know so I can get started, and I'll just respond to all the.
Did the work.
We went out.
Christmas present. Oh, my God. Just with the one.
Well. It shows the
We
product.
used this company when we did some of the restoration work on the tower at the top of the courthouse, so
Were they the last ones?
they were the last
Eagle.
ones.
They did Eagles
Yeah, yeah, and
We also just worked on a few of the churches up the street here
and museum.
and museum.
so yeah, when we did that work, basically above where you can walk around in the viewing deck, we did the tower up from that area up, and they did tuck pointing and
They were the same ones that did
the one, the church, yeah.
So is this, did they just provide this to us?
It was-
as a
it's
full
just-
record of the
yeah.
project and the costs and.
Yeah, like 6.5 or 6.522, and then it shows the products that they used and the spec
I
sheet.
think it's a, keep us in mind
Record.
if you're doing more projects type mailing, because nobody requested it or.
It's nice to have that if you are looking, you see what they used and what other people might be proposing to use in comparison.
So I don't know what place to store that is.
Auditor's office.
Tony,
Great.
Tony,
Antonio stuff
Tony,
somewhere.
Tony will find a place for it.
Yeah.
And I have a set of drawings of Brady Tony from, that are printed out for the CSB building. That were done by Gardner. Back when they designed.
I know it's probably all digital, but I can see where these would help when, like, when we're talking about the roofing problems.
Mhm.
It's nice to have this type of information 20 years later or 30 years later.
Exactly.
and we do need to get a response on the condition of the roof because it's not good.
Well, yeah,
For a new roof, it's not good.
no, not for the
Development.
shingle product that, I think that's what you're referencing more.
That's not this company. That's-
Just saying, speaking of,
Still working on that.
you
Yeah,
can't
that's-
let it drag on forever.
Right.
No, and we still got, until we get some warmer weather on the issue where you and I surmise that leak may be up there, we can't, they'll come up to do that when we don't have solid water, but liquid water.
Yeah, and in here, that's kind of nice because it shows you the product that they used, the name that goes with the
Yeah.
product. Shows some of the original grout and then the product that they used and how it matched.
Because if you want,
So going down the road,
Big deal.
because if you're gonna use just a small contractor, do a little patching here,
Yeah.
you wanna make sure it's the same color grout and sealants and stuff you're putting on. That's very nice of them.
all right. 10:30, next item on the agenda, a miscellaneous item, take some action on the health insurance renewal and rates that we discussed last week.
So Brian brought the actual sheet that we have to sign without Wellmark to accept the renewal rate. And so I would recommend taking action on that and setting our employee rates. I was still working with Brian, and a question that Mark Falda had is if we want to change the structure of rather than having a deductible and then co-insurance and then max out of pocket, maybe we could lower the max out of pocket just a little bit to incentivize it, but then get rid of the deductible part. So there's no co-insurance. So we're still working on how that would affect Midwest group benefits and all that, but we could change that yet. Yeah, regardless of this action. So, because that's all done within our side fund.
Can you remind me that is the deductible 500 right now for employees under the current?
It's
agreement?
the deductible is 100 for single
I
and
mean-
200 for families, but the max out of pocket is 500 for single and 1,000 for family. And it gets confusing because once you hit the deductible, then it's this 20-80 split until you get to the max out of pocket. And there might be something simpler about just making it the deductible and the max out of pocket the same number and go forward that
Definitely
way.
would be less confusing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my comment to Brian was, do you think Midwest Group Benefits would give us a break on our admin fees since it would be a way less work at their end? But he said he'd check into that, but he didn't know if that would get us anywhere. But I think that's something we should continue to discuss, and we could decide that, but that doesn't need to be decided right now.
This is simply proving that there's no rating increase for continuing the same policy.
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
I don't know who won that.
That's fine. Doesn't matter.
We have a motion and a second to approve the health insurance renewal and rates. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Motion carries unanimous.
On our workers' comp, I stopped at their table and was chatting with them for a moment. They've been very helpful with Mark and I when we did the safety inspection previously and so forth. But they did mention that we don't know it yet, but I'm not sure if do you know what our current comp?
Our current mod is like, it's really low. It's almost as low as it can go. It's not quite there, but.
Well, we got, our mod will be 61 this time,
Okay.
which is
So up
even,
just,
it's slightly down.
oh, that's down just a hair.
But we could go as low as 45, Ben.
Oh, okay.
That we learned, Mark and I learned in our walkthrough discussion. So if we continue good safety and so forth, our mod can continue to drop down, which means our premium dollars get lower and lower as long as we have a good accident ratio. But that is and we're one of the, we should be real thankful that we have a good safety program because we're one of the better in the state, according to the folks that are.
The big thing is on a injury, if the first 2 days of paid leave because of an injury are exempt from consideration when you're doing the modifier. So if the person can get treated and get returned to work by the 3rd day, even if that return to work is a light duty or some other type of assignment, then that saves that from going against our premium.
And we do have available for all of the departments in the county, if they need to utilize that, we have that available for return to work at recycling. We have work they can do there.
It's one of the things we looked at, well, why do we need this, but it does get used quite a bit for people that have light duty. On those assignments, so. But all of this is also good, as we talk about looking at trying to get a human resource manager for the county. One more good example of why that.
Yep. Do this. I put copies in your box last week, I think. So, I mean, nothing you decide right now is for sure, but if you can give me what number, if you want me to put in for the first run.
Copies at home. Do you have it?
Yeah, I did bring, I made a few extras. So. Do you have your smart?
I have.
Thank you.
And
And
I don't
so-
know.
You can have an updated one.
Oh, send me an updated one.
Oh. Thanks, Ben.
So I mean, you can put in what you could just say, we're gonna do all of what was requested for the first run, and we can go up and start there, or you could, if you have anything, you're gonna lower anyway, we can just go ahead and put them in lower right now. These are very easy for me to change from run to run, so they don't have, unlike payroll where I'm figuring hourly work over the year, and then I have to figure FICA and IPERS and all that stuff. These are pretty straightforward. I can pop this numbers in, but you can start with what should I put in for the first run? You just want to start at the
Yeah, I
top.
was gonna say, start at the top. We'll just go through it that way.
And I don't need to direct it. I mean, you can see them there. The first one is EMS, so they requested a increase to help with education for the big chunk of that was to help with education for the if they call a vote on essential service. So when Steve was here, he talked about how they're talking about going to the voters to declare EMS as an essential county service And that would then open up another levy rate, or actually comes, excuse me, with two options. It can be a levy rate or a income tax surcharge. And if that vote is successful. So they are asking for that increase to help educate the public if they get to that point of taking it to the vote.
I think everybody that came to us this year was pretty reasonable in their requests based on last year's and previous year's numbers. And you just talked about the EMS and why that's a little bit higher. For the sake of the first run, I would be comfortable leaving them as they are and seeing how we come out.
We're going one at a time, and that's probably a proposal to leave that one at 10,000, at least for the first run. You want to? What do you want to do with that one? Any other opinion, or?
Half of that or 7,500?
I was gonna say 7,000, but 7,500 would make sense. Split it.
I'm agree with that.
Three, okay with that, okay. Next one is helping services. The good one on helping services is this is funded through the supplemental fund. So it doesn't actually affect your restricted HF 718 budget. Plus they haven't requested a change for ever.
I think it's,
Actually, the last time we changed was about 15 years ago, and it went down at that time. So it used to be 12,000.
helping services, almost every division of the Hawk meetings I go to are utilizing helping services and county social, all of them. Everyone uses. And we're very fortunate, I think, to have helping services here in Decorah, for sure. So
leave that one at 10.
Yeah.
Okay, community action requested the same dollar amount as they have for many years. It's kind of a weird dollar amount. It used to be, and it's been many years, it was before Trish took over there, but they took like every service they had and how many people utilized it and assigned a dollar number, like $1 per transit ride and blah, blah, blah. Assign a number, and that calculated out to be this 59,417. The last time they did that, they've never done that calculation again, so they just keep using the same number. But
it should probably have gone up by their request, or
But they didn't
they
ask.
didn't
for
ask
it.
for it.
Yeah.
So.
I would say leave it at where it is.
Yeah.
We gave them a good gift last year.
Yeah.
They also did a good service.
Yeah.
Mutually beneficial.
RC&D is requesting the same amount.
Yeah.
That one, again, we used to do 6,000 when it first went from federally funding and they lost their federal funding. They asked for 1,000 from each county that was a member in that. So we did 6,000. Well, they left it at 6,000 for many, many years in a row, and then realized that they're getting more and more behind. So then they doubled it all at once. So, but they only requested 12,000. So I guess that's probably where you put that.
Yeah.
The housing trust, you actually already signed the pledge letter on that one. You kind of committed to that one already.
Oh. That's good. That's good.
3A, the area agency on aging.
Leave it at 47.
No, they
No,
were-
we don't.
We
We
didn't fund them.
We
We
haven't
didn't fund them
funded it.
last year. We didn't fund them the year before.
Last 3
We haven't
years.
funded it none for the last 3 years.
And why would we not? What's the reasoning behind that?
I think we used to fund them, just thinking back historically, we used to fund them 500 or 1,000 a year, and then, but then they quit coming to the meetings and requesting funding. This is the first time she came online.
Yes,
This
she
is the
did.
first time that she actually came, that we've had a
Mhm.
request in person for many years.
They deliver meals to the elderly.
Meals on Wheels, is that what you're thinking?
Mhm.
That's a federal program, federal funded.
If they're asking for 4,700, and I think the sheet, if I could find it in my notes, which are at home in a big clip.
I think that represented like $1 per meal they delivered or something like that,
Yeah.
is where that came from, or some percentage of the meals they delivered. I have the,
If we could leave that in the first run.
Yeah, in the last 3 years, I'm not.
They're a good service for elderly.
We offered them a building.
that's approximately 3% of the services they provided in our county, is where that number came from.
3%, you say?
So it says here that their programs, invested $157,600 in services in Winneshiek County. And they're asking us, the board, to consider 3% funding 3% back.
It's a huge ask. It's a really good service.
I'm not.
We're already paying more through federal taxes.
Yeah.
I think a nod to supporting elderly services, we should at least do 2,000.
I would agree to 2,000.
I hear 2 at 0 and 2 at 2,000. That leaves Dan.
Yeah, it was. Right now I'm at 0.
We're in the first round.
Okay. Ridgeway Fire Department, I grade that out because that was a one-time request, so I just took that out. Riverview Center asked for looks like $1,000 increase from last year.
It's great service.
They're the ones that provide sexual assault
Yeah.
and services. They're again, it's a contracted through the state, that they're the ones that provide it in Winneshiek County, but they're asking for local support.
They also do a lot of private fundraising to try to fill their gap, so it's not like, it's not like they're just living off of government money. They do a lot of private fundraising too.
RSVP asked for a 3,000 increase from the 12 you funded last year.
Yeah, last year they asked for 17 and we gave 12.
Which was a 2,000 increase from the year before that. Looks like it's been going up 2,000 a year.
Yeah.
8, 10, 12.
We do 14
I think we should at least do 14.
at least. If not the.
I
the
mean, I look at
back
the total value of the services and the specific services they do that fill a niche that a lot of, like the tax work and things, especially, that it's invaluable for people to have that support.
I don't remember what the exact return on our dollar on that one is, but the number of labor hours they provide for the area, pretty impressive.
I would leave it at 15.
He did.
Excuse me?
She does a good job.
Yep.
Yeah.
So leave it at 15.
They're showing a 776% return on investment based on the volunteer hours they helped coordinate.
I think what was interesting too is like some counties have like 3 other people helping
She's
for what
just
she's doing
a
with,
little part-time.
then she's got a part-time helper. So I would definitely.
Cookie River Watershed it's 250 per entity that's included. This is basically to help with the administrative costs of keeping the organization together so that if some federal money came along, they would be prepared to apply for it. But we pay all of them. We pay Winneshiek County, Soil and Water, and then the cities, the 3 cities that are in that. We just pay them all, so they don't have to do them separately.
Yeah.
I think so.
Upper Explorer lands, they have theirs divided out into those different categories. And basically you've kind of agreed to those based on your votes and for those of you who are on that on the commission. So I think it would be hard to try to back out of that at this point, but
Leave them the same. It's horrible.
yeah. And a couple of them are changed a few dollars, but a little bit, but that has to do with population. It's like splitting up the cost of the program based on population, so.
I think what Mark said, just leave all of those as they
Yeah, I
are.
mean, there's a little bit of an increase, ain't much. It's
Like 125 and the safe routes to school and
That's about
$650 on the DOT and anyway, so. Upper Iowa River Watershed, this is the one that,
Bear Creek.
that they do the water testing. Think of his name,
Dan still.
yeah, it's Josh. Josh came and talked to you and it's the longest, they have the longest running data collection of any watershed in the state because they've been doing it for so many years and they get it done pretty cheap, actually.
They work with Southern Minnesota too.
So leave that at 2,000. Assuming.
Yep.
Okay. The fair requested an increase of 10,000. I split it up between the two different categories, but you don't have to split it that way, I guess. But
2,500 a piece.
Yeah, it impacts a lot of people.
Yeah, they do.
They
So you're saying 12.5.
12,500 for each category. So they'll get 5,000 total increase.
They are able to generate their own revenue outside of the fair itself with the buildings and the raceway.
Development and tourism requested the same 95,000 that you awarded them last year.
Leave that.
Hearing the objection, so
That's the
leave
one.
that one. Historic preservation is the same amount they've requested for several years. County library, so their request this year was the base part that's based on the valuation, and then 3,000 extra per library. Whereas last year you did the base valuation amount and 2,500 per library. So that's basically giving each library 500 more plus whatever that base value increase their portion.
I think your request, when you had it last year, you got 160.
I put that was the,
180 probably.
well, that was the amount without any extra.
Oh.
Because I think last year they
Oh, yeah,
didn't
were-
request extra, but they asked if there's any way you could, that they'd like the extra again per library, the 2,500 per library. So I didn't know how last year, so I listed
I
it.
thought maybe it was just a
Yeah,
test.
so it would be 2,500 times 5. Well, that would have been the 173, 136, so.
12.5, yeah.
I think the library's doing a fantastic job of filling a niche and providing a service, lots of services from technology, assistance with technology, safe place for people to hang out, I guess.
How much
After
increase
school
now?
care.
School care.
So like I have all three of those figures. I have the base contract amount, the 2,500 per library amount, and the 3,000 per library amount. So like if you do the 2,500 again, so you don't increase any more than what the valuation did anyway, it would be 178,614. Or you add to another 500 per library, and that gets you to 181,114.
So about 5,500 at that number. Base increase is about 5,500.
Yeah, yes, without any, if you just do without the extra 500 per library, it's about 5,500 that's generated extra from that 18 cents per thousand of the valuation. I mean, that's the contract we have. Dan even met with them. I think year, a little more than a year ago and asked, do you want to change the contract? And they said, no, we'll leave it the way it is. And so I don't think you want to touch the contract portion. It's just how much extra per library do you want to give them? I mean, that all is completely way more what is required by law, but that is neither here nor there. I don't think you're looking at making a change that way.
I don't think their increase is unreasonable if they're asking for them.
You're getting 5,000 just with the evaluation.
So I would say leave it at 181. 114.
The thing with the valuation portion of it, because the percentage, the way the percentage is split out, that ends up being very little money for the smaller library. That 5,500,
Most of it goes.
4,500 of it goes to Decorah, so it doesn't
But
give
Decorah
the
is the
biggest one. Yeah.
mothership that
Yeah.
does a lot of work for the smaller
Yeah.
ones, and they cover all of northern County.
So that's why if you do the 3,000 they request, that gives each of those smaller libraries a little bit more too, so. Wanna go with what they requested?
I would be in favor of that.
Okay, Pioneer Cemetery asked for a small increase of $470, it looks like, just to cover their mowing, yeah.
Yeah, they do a great job for a little bit of money.
Not an increase of 500.
It's not enough money, there is actually you can go through the process of, I think it's an ordinance and establishing a separate Pioneer Cemetery levy. But it's not enough money to go mess around doing that, because it would be such a small, I mean, it would be less than a penny or less. Each penny is in the general fund is like 18 to 20,000, so it'd be less than a penny of levy to cover that. So it's not really worth it to do that, but
That's supplemental.
no, that's general
General.
for Pioneer Cemetery.
And that's where, yeah.
And then the last two are the Soil and Water Conservation District. The one is the support you give for their administrative expenses, and the other is the money you put in on account with them that they save up in case there's ever a major
Yeah.
North Bear Creek up there and do the watersheds.
repair or something they need in that watershed.
I think both of
That
those,
saves on the road.
both of those are good investment.
Okay, so that gives me the numbers. I'll put in on the first run on those. The other information, excuse me, is the, if you have a number you'll want me to use for cable. So how your union negotiations are, or do you wanna, I don't want you to just pick something out that's likely not gonna be the final number, because it creates extra work. At the same time, if you want to use some number that's maybe reasonable, if you want to say 3.5% or something, or 3%, and I do it, then we at least know where we're sitting.
As far as union negotiations go, they're waiting and we're waiting to see what we do here. That helps us with negotiation.
I'd say be safe at 3, do a 3 and.
And that's what I think you approved for on the conference
I was
board.
gonna say the conference is 3.
I'd say do a 3 and see what happens.
Okay.
There's a lot of counties. Did you talk to any down there about that? I heard.
I heard numbers kind of within a range of 2.5 up to 7.
Yeah, but the 7s were not.
They were
They were
outliers.
the
Probably
urban
a lot more
counties.
2.5s than.
They were very large.
Most of, and I heard some of these counties that have populations down in the southwest corner of the state that are just.
Yeah, it's,
struggling to be.
there's a disparity, because you have these little counties that are having that problem, and then there's some of those big counties that have.
Don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, they have valuation growth of 15 or 20%, so even if they fall in that highest category, that they have to lose 3% of it, it's still a lot of money. So,
Polk County just keeps building.
I mean, we cannot
yeah.
compete with
Yeah.
bigger counties. Nobody's
The other-
expecting us to.
The other question that I have for doing the first run is, you want me to, for the elected officials, you want me to put them in the matrix like I put on that one example where I created a matrix and tied them to the rest of the matrix, so you just make an action on matrix and it just filters through on those. Do you want to go through each one and address them separately, or how do you want to do that?
Well, we'll have to justify it either way.
Yep.
To show our work on elected officials raises and show the comps.
I'd say run it through to get a first run number.
Put them in,
No, I wouldn't do the matrix because that's a little different.
Then you got years of service. and the
I
rest of
would
that in
do,
there. And you already got issues with the number of deputies and the rest of that affect all of that.
Right.
Yeah, I would do.
that's why I've been each year saying that the elected officials don't have a way to get compensated for years of service. Whereas the matrix employees do and the union employees do. And so that's why it seems like if you would put it in there, then you would get that included that everyone else already gets, but.
Well, if you put it in there, that each of them gets a merit-based, if their wages are based on merit-based instead of all deputies in departments. It's another option. There are some elected officials that I talk to that have half as many deputies.
Right. Having a deputy though doesn't necessarily, I mean, there are deputies that are at the same rates as they would be. I mean, when Becky in the treasurer's office was a clerk and Brenda asked to make her a deputy because she needed to be able to sign certain documents, she didn't change her salary. That just gave her that authority. It was, her salary was 56 point whatever % of Brenda's. It just worked out to be that way. Being a deputy
Does not automatically go.
not automatically give you a percentage. Then my deputies, when I got a bigger percentage a few years ago, I lowered my deputies' percentage so that they didn't just automatically get the same I did, so that it didn't filter through.
Some of those union contracts, though, the longevity really doesn't add up to be much.
No, it's a cents per hour, so it's harder to.
20 years is 30 cents. I think.
Yeah.
Which is pretty minimal when it was first established, 30 cents and that's something.
Mhm.
In today's world, not so much.
I do think realistically going forward, 3% is, in my mind, generous, since there also is the cost of living built in. And the benefit packages we've just been talking about. Yes, we can compare ourselves to other counties, but does someone want to drive to Polk County to work? Do that same job? I mean, so it's like, what's relative to what people can make here, given the benefits and the wages?
So 3% for elected, but not on the matrix. Is that what you're saying?
Why wouldn't
Try
we
that.
compare it to the matrix?
I don't know. I thought that would
I
make
think that
it,
makes sense.
make it that they just fit in with everyone else. That's what I thought would be
That
more.
makes sense to me.
I think that one way we have to justify what we're doing for elected officials. So, it by law now. We have to do that, not boards.
I would just,
So I think across the board,
I would just.
just the 3% right now. Can change it.
Yep.
We have to.
Why wouldn't you want him to put it with the matrix? I just want to know what the reasoning behind it is.
A
It just makes sense
regular
to do that.
person on the matrix gets 20. Whatever it is, I can't remember the number now. 27% of raises over their career,
20.
split up over 24 years. So they get a little over 1% more per year when they average it out.
But then,
Plus cost of
like
living.
the elected
Plus
officials,
cost of living. Whereas elected officials, you've never given them any years of service increase. So when you put them at the same percentage as a matrix employee, they actually get less.
but then we'd have to start, like the new auditor, or the new treasurer, you gotta start him down here.
Yeah, you could do that.
But then you'd have to, but then all his deputies, they're gonna take a cut in pay too.
If you move them down, what has traditionally happened, and this is again, something you need to decide is when my first year, I just got a 0%, I got a freeze. And, Jane's first year, she got a 0% freeze. And so you could do that separately from the rest of the.
But I mean, when you get a new elected official, if you're going into matrix, then that new elected officials, say if he goes back to year 0 service, that's gonna be hard to do
Change
with
the
your deputies if they're all getting paid up here. Pretty soon your deputy,
Locked into a
they're gonna be locked in.
Legally, you have to.
They have to be taken back down to where that elected official. So
Also,
it doesn't really work in the matrix.
also,
that-
the matrix has a problem in that most of our matrix is 40 hours a week and elected officials and deputies are at 35. So
That
that
was one of the things I
also
was
is
thinking of.
And some of us, at least I said that I would change my office if that made any. If that was made any weight on your consideration.
I mean, I think it's hard to say, well, yeah, we don't get a raise, but you're also working 5 hours less a week. I mean, not you, not the
Maybe that's
elected
a
official,
question
but the
Emily
deputies
and I can
potentially.
ask when we're talking to the department heads
And
this afternoon.
likewise, I think we should look across the board. Other offices that aren't elected officials should be at 40 hours a week. rather than 35 if they are, so everyone's more on an equal basis. It would make things a lot cleaner.
Well, we have some that that are working 35 that are not elected official offices.
No, that's true.
And
Traditionally, all of the courthouse offices were 35, but then back when Dean Darling was here, that they switched the road office admins to 40. That was the only one that got switched at that time.
the public might like the added hours.
I mean, if you're just wanting to have them be more the same, you could lower the road department admins to make them the same as everyone else's. I mean, that would.
You really don't want to compare them with what the other elected official deputies make by comparison. If you look at the sheet that Jim put out with the.
Yeah, but if you lower them to 35, but gave them the same salary, their hourly rate would increase.
Yeah.
So you were not comparing apples to oranges at that point, because you were comparing
I think
hourly, I'm assuming you were comparing an hourly rate with.
I would almost venture to say even if we lower them to 35, they're still gonna be underpaid compared to what everyone else is making.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, that's-
Well, they probably are, but
15, 20.
you should compare them to a job with similar duties. You can't just say,
I don't think you want to use the road department as a comparison for duties, because their overall work is far exceeds the $52,000 a year that they make. By comparison, if I do that apples to apples the way I see it, it's out of balance. I think surely.
Because I mean, they're
You
dealing
and I
with a
might
lot,
agree on that, surely.
they're dealing with a lot of confidential, legal and federal
FEMA.
and state and FEMA and everything issues. Trying to balance all of that, so that's a lot of responsibility.
For the entire secondary roads department,
Yeah, for 60-some employees, 50-some employees. But
plus the public.
plus the public, yes. But
You know, our whole benefit package is pretty significant when you put the cost of health insurance and IPERS by comparison, that's pretty big dollars. If it costs us $12,768 for a single health insurance policy, that's pretty big. That's pretty big in itself.
When we hire, Ben, any new hire, are they shown the full package value of the benefits package that they're getting with their pay?
value, not necessarily. They're showing Lynn has a list of benefits that we provide, paper
Right.
that we give to them.
But it'd be really interesting for new hires and actually, quite frankly, for current employees to see, this is what you're getting in the value of the benefits package
'Cause-
with your pay.
Just-
Because go ahead.
Steve did a thing on
Yeah.
just the healthcare costs.
Healthcare cost per hour of
For
employment.
showing us, looking at the recycling job out there, and it's like,
And that, I mean, that isn't really it's something you need to provide though. I mean,
but we don't need to.
but for counties of similar size, we're one of the lowest.
Yeah, but
So, I mean, if you want to attract and retain employees, you can't just get rid of.
but employees here are welcome to drive to Des Moines or Cedar Rapids to get the higher wage. Or
I'm not
even
saying
Vermont.
wage.
But at some point in time, counties need to break with this. Let's just compare ourselves to other counties rather than let's look at employers in the neighborhood.
You use comparison to other counties because that's what it says in the code for comparison by the comp boards. You need to compare to
We don't
other
have a
counties.
comp board for one of those,
Right.
no.
But you do.
We have to do that work.
You are required to use comparison to counties of similar size as your comp for your elected officials.
For the
That's elected.
elected official.
Everyone else is you do what you want. I think I have,
So that's what I'm saying. Elected officials is one thing, but everyone else.
so I think I have basically the information that I need for, except whatever, and I'll just use whatever the two-person committee tells me after you've talked with your other meetings this afternoon. After you've talked with the department heads, you two can tell me what to put in on the first run and then bring it back next week and we'll decide if the rest of them agree with what you suggest or not. How's that sound?
Just on a sidebar, I do agree with Shirley, and it maybe would be good for everybody in the county to see what is the value of
That's right.
when you add
It's true. No, people
IFRS and retirement
Yep.
and social security, all
do
of that.
not realize how much.
It's
it
40% basically
Yeah.
more
Just
than what their
before,
wage.
I didn't even know we got benefits, but just a case, my case was, I was paying $1,200 out of my back pocket per month for my health insurance premium. For just Mike and I, two healthy people, $1,200 a month out of right here.
Yeah, but if you would,
It's significantly lower for us, and I know it's a savings for my family.
and
I
That
appreciate it.
definitely is. And I don't think people realize, they only look at the salary and they don't realize how much that extra all.
if you are insured by us, what the county pays, not taking out what the employee pays. If you're a single person, the county pays for your health insurance $12,768. If you are either an employee with a child, employee with a spouse, or a family, the county pays $17,896.80
Per year.
per year per employee. That's our cost.
So when we're looking at, well, do we, a 35 and a 40, it's the same out of pocket. What are you getting out of it? If you're working the
Yeah.
full.
And actually you have,
Full part-time that are getting benefits.
there's actually a couple of part-time people, because once you hit 30 hours a
Like I
week,
said, the full part-time people
Yeah.
are also getting that.
That costs a lot more for.
Then
The,
then it jumps to, well, Steve has some of that, it's what you're paying.
If you take that cost and divide it by a 2,080 work hour for a full-time employee,
yeah.
that's $9 it's $9 an hour of a benefit on top of their wage. And then you add 9.4% of the extra IPERS on top of it, and you get up with those wages.
And then we're paying.
Escalate quickly.
Yeah, employees, 765, social security.
But any employer pays that. People.
No, but I'm just,
We're above and beyond that.
for the employees' recognition of, here's what I'm getting per hour.
And if you factor in even the beginning of 2 weeks of vacation, plus 10 paid holidays, you got 20 non-working days, you factor those in, those wage cost per hour of hour worked escalates that much more. It can get up as much as $14.46 an hour.
So that's why we were talking about, we'd like to cut down on the number of part-time people we have, or potentially, or we talk about, oh, you can use part-time, well, there's part-time, and there's full-time, part-time.
There's another way to look at that, in that you want to keep good people and not keep retraining. And if it's truly just part-time, they're going to use that just as a stepping stone for a job with better security and better hours. So I'd rather not keep retraining people. I'd rather keep really good people.
No, so I'm just saying, maximize
Yeah. And another,
per individual hours for.
another, point I've made in a few emails is when you're considering House File 718 is that
Just a second, Mark's sharing a number that everybody should hear.
The family package at 17, what does it cost counties?
17.9,
17,908.
That's $11.47 at a 30-hour per hour.
so in our policy,
That's what it
technically,
costs.
a 30-hour employee is technically a part-time employee by our policy, so they don't get the same same
$12.50.
sick time and vacation and so on,
No,
but
But
the Affordable Care Act
So-
requires a 30-hour employee to get
health insurance.
full health insurance.
So that's where my idea, if
And they do
there are
get that for
offices,
part-time.
yeah, that there are offices that could share and split up full-time, half-time, and make that work, it would be a real benefit
That there would be a
to
savings.
the county to be able to do that. Likewise, you're willing to go to 40 hours. If everyone's willing to go to 40, it gives us a lot more flexibility on how we can compensate people.
There is a place for part-time work in certain.
Yes, there is.
That's always that's a given.
Anyway, I was saying on as far as benefits go, if you, and maybe you do the first run and see, but if you're considering House File 718 and is the general fund where most of the salaries are being paid is the one that's restricted. So if you have to lower the amount you give an employee for salary increase, but you give them more insurance benefit, it might give them just the same amount of money in their pocket, but then that insurance benefit isn't restricted. So, so that's in the supplemental fund. So you could say, we're gonna give you whatever it is, $100 every paycheck or $100 a month or something to put towards vision, dental, family plan, whatever, your flex account. If you put that in as a benefit to the employees as an insurance benefit, then it comes out of the supplemental fund and then it isn't restricted. That's a way to kind of work around to try to get benefits if House File 718 is keeping this too tight.
And there again, every year, give that total breakdown in addition of, here's what your total compensation is from the county,
Right.
not just, here's what
Yeah,
your
we
wage
can,
is. Wage has no meaning when you look at it.
now, actually, health insurance, they do get that information, because when you get your W-2, you get whatever, it's 1089C or whatever it is, it says how much the county paid for your insurance. But that's
how much the county paid or how much you paid.
No, that's how much the county paid.
Because if you take our cost on a family plan before the employee contribution, the cost of the plan itself without the county contribution and the employee contribution is $27,758. That's what it costs to insure a family. It's horrible. And then the employee on a family plan pays $9,861 out of their paycheck to have the coverage for a full family. You know, it's different if you're employing a spouse, you pay out of pocket $1,674.
Plus deductibles.
You know, plus your deductible in all cases, but so with a child or with straight up single, I mean, you pay $12 a
So
year.
it's pretty good.
Even and $12 a year, you compare that with anybody in Decorah, I don't think you're going to find anybody in the Winneshiek County that provides.
At some point, there was
Most
something that said
will not
they
provide
paid
that.
0 for themselves, but then the other one was much higher.
We used to, the $1 a year is not really supposed to be trying to put skin in the game. That's just so that we can have, a person can waive the insurance, because we have had now and then, we have cases where an employee is covered on someone else's insurance, and so they can waive it. If it's free, if it's 0, they can't waive it. So we put the $1 in there just to keep that option available. I don't know if we have any right now, but we have in the last couple of years had someone that was waiving, and so that saves the county
Saves the county a lot of money.
almost $13,000 a year because they are able to waive it. Back, some of you might even have been on the board when you added the family, part of the family plan. Before that, the county just paid for the single plan, and so that was a way to try
I think
to,
that was 3 years ago.
try to attract and retain employees. And I think I said this when Brian was here, I think that's part of the reason why we've had lower insurance increases the last couple of years, because we've been able to spread it. We get more families with children or full families in our insurance plan, so we're spreading everything out over more people. So that's why our rates have actually, from Wellmark, haven't increased now 2 years in a row. Which, whether it's just luck of timing or if it's actually tied to that, it happened, in my mind, it seems like it's something that could have affected that. My request for a stipend for work I do on the budget, have you considered that at all?
Is this the same one you asked for last time? The same amount?
And I mean, that could be negotiable. I just know that there's a lot of counties that are doing it that way rather than.
Yeah. No.
Because last year.
Last year you talked about it, but with the comp board, you can't, the board can't do it unless the comp board had recommended it. But now that you got rid of the comp board, the board could do it.
Not all auditors do the budgeting for the same, at the same level that you do.
Right.
No, I think we won't.
But no more.
I would be in support of a stipend for the budget work.
But
At what level should I put it
I was gonna say,
in for that?
Well, a dollar, they
I
could
I
reduce it.
recommended 75.
You just say $500.
I recommended 7,500, but.
This is like 5 to 6 anyway.
I mean, it does, I do a lot of extra work that isn't required of the auditor. The auditor's responsibility to the budget is to accept what you prepare and enter it in the Department of Management website. And so all of the other things I'm doing are actually your duties. And so that's why a lot of counties either give the auditor stipend or they hire someone that's a budget director or a finance manager or something.
Well,
what's even more, I think, invaluable is your historical. knowledge. That's,
Yeah.
otherwise.
And doing it as a stipend probably makes it easier if at some day when I retire or if I croak on my way home tonight or something, that it's something you can
take off.
take off easier with the next person. So,
When you take the job in Polk County and drive down there.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys say?
I'm
5
in
at
favor of the
least.
7,500, but
Yeah.
I
I mean,
know
I-
that's what you're gonna do.
Throw 7,500 in for the first run.
So I think that answers most of what I need, except for those few positions that the two board members are going to meet with. That starts in 10 minutes, so I guess we're right about on time.
As long as we're talking budget, and I do this every year, I don't care how the rest of you vote, but I think that we should again take a freeze on the supervisors.
Well, that would be something to consider. With the two things I had mentioned on the elected officials when I sent out the email was whatever you do across the board, if you want to do something different with the supervisors, or actually the three things, or the treasurer, because he's new, or if you want to do something different with Dan as the sheriff with the back to blue bill.
I think so.
Leave the
But I'd like
difference
to leave
of
Dan where he is, but I'd like to see a
Three
freeze.
percent for the
Yeah.
treasurer and the sheriff, and how about your own?
Just do a 3.
I would say 0.
Yeah.
We're gonna be so far behind on the pay scale that nobody's gonna wanna do this job, Shirley. That's
right.
But people don't do this job for the money, that we're very different than the rest of the positions. This isn't our career. This, people don't get into
You need-
supervisor job for money.
Well, there hasn't been one for 5 years, so that's.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
I think
It's just
3%
another way
over
of
5
saving
years
money.
is a
Good
pretty
for you,
modest
Sherry.
request.
Cut it out of mileage or something that.
Yeah, don't turn your mileage in. That's all
I'm
you
gonna turn my mileage in.
Well, see, right there, then why do you turn your mileage in if you wanna save the county money?
Back in my own car to Des Moines.
Yeah, so what?
So he's saying that if you get a 3% increase, use that money to
Pay the mileage.
reimburse
back.
yourself for mileage rather than turning
Well,
mileage
but you're
in.
saying- Then why are you worried about saving the county money?
Because I did drive my own car to Des Moines.
You don't understand what you're saying.
Yes, I
Then don't
do.
turn, if you wanna save the county money, don't turn that mileage in.
I drive my
That's not
car
how it
to
works.
Decorah sometimes 5 times a week and I don't.
Well, I
take any
don't,
payment.
I don't claim anything but my trips to Des Moines.
Well, that's
I don't
because you
claim my
live a
trips
mile
to-
across town.
No, I
live
don't claim my
16
trips to
miles away.
Postville for Iowa RCND. It's in another county. The
I
only
I
thing
think I see what Mark is saying. If you got a raise of $1,500 that you didn't want,
Then don't turn your mind.
then don't turn in $1,500
Don't turn
not
it,
mileage.
your mileage.
Or your,
Or
or your
your
hotel
Meantime,
expenses.
Yeah.
when we're long gone, you gotta
Based on
have,
the whole table,
Yeah, so-
Would save overall, would save money.
Then give yours back then.
I think you're being ridiculous right now. What I'm saying is for all 5 of us to save money, take a 0%.
well, then we shouldn't be so generous as some of the places we pass it on elsewhere.
Yes.
But to continue to do 0 on the supervisors when you've got to take and replace us one of these days is insane.
It is actually and nothing against you guys, but the way, as low as the salary is, you have to be retired and because you can't have a
You can't.
full-time job and do this job, so you have to be, you have to be your self-employed, or retired or
Yep.
independently wealthy, because you can't say this is your only job,
Yeah.
because it isn't high enough. I mean, that's true.
No, you look at, we're like $5,000 behind the average now.
Well, you have the majority vote, so you don't even have to argue it if you don't want to, you just vote.
We're not arguing.
No, you voted for all of us at the compensation board the last couple of years.
I don't vote on the compensation board.
You told them we wanted 0.
Let's not go back.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Just go ahead.
Okay, so my plan to be to have a first run for next week. And I'm going to the Girls State Wrestling Tournament Thursday, Friday, but I'll make sure it's ready. If I don't get it done before I leave, I'll do it over the weekend, because I want to go to that.
You should.
Although my daughter didn't make it.
Oh,
That's the sad news.
Unfortunate part of that injury, so.
Good for her back.
Yeah, so she made it to the finals and then lost the finals, and then the way the other people wrestled, so they had to do a wrestle back, and she was a 4th or 5th match in the same afternoon, and her back was already sore, and she crawled off the mat because she couldn't even stand up. It was bad. Anyway.
Only in wrestling.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So she didn't make it, but we're planning, we have tickets and we're gonna go support the team. And I think Decorah qualified 5
Oh, awesome.
Wow.
wrestlers. At our region, only Osage had more. I think they did 6.
Well, we would have had 6.
Actually, there was another one that was really close too. We could have had 7 pretty easy, but the heavyweight was, I think she could have won that final match, but when you wrestle like it. Anyway, so I'll have a first run for next week and we'll see the bad news or the not so bad news once we get all these numbers in there.
Move to adjourn.
Wait, tomorrow's meeting is a closed session.
Well, it has to be posted as an open session.
It probably will.
And it will probably close, but you leave it as an open session, because if after you're done with the actual interviews, if you want to discuss, that would have to happen in open session.
Question is 1:45.
That's a typo, but I'm gonna ask our 5 o'clock to reshuffle.
They'll move up.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was my.
Yeah, and so I don't think it was a typo for me. It was a typo when he notified me.
Well,
I thought it was two,
We
so I
went
thought,
through that the other,
Yeah.
the night before.
So we should be here at 1:45.
just so you can distribute
Yeah.
your questionnaires and.
Questions printed out for each of us. We can discuss if we want to add or subtract any of that.
Yeah, like in the
And
past.
then,
Just a second.
then two of them have actually already submitted their request for closed session. The third one has not told me one way, I mean, in the written request, so. I told him he
They
could
can
wait.
sign it the day of.
Yes, he said he'd bring it along.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if he'll be in closed or
By,
not.
by phone, they all ask for closed, so I would
Probably
expect
how
it to
they'll
be
do it.
closed.
Mhm.
So it's their choice.
And I'm going to, just in case, I'm going to show, because I've been getting sicker the last 2 days. Just in case, I'll show Shirley how to do the recording. Because that's really my only job during the, if it's a closed session, is it has to be recorded. And I think rather than having someone else in here that maybe doesn't even need to be in the,
Yeah.
doesn't need to know, be present during a closed session, I'll just let one of you run the recorder.
But if you show me what you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is now adjourned.
I think you should still pay your mileage in your hotel, even with a raise. Steve, fully expect you to claim your hotel and mileage going into the future.
You want to bring this up then too?
Yeah, I'll do that.
There are still 5 in the room, so do not stop recording your
I'll
meeting
stop
yet.
recording, yeah.
Oh, I think I got one. Like, I put an alarm on that to make sure I could get a
Thank you for
notification.
doing this.
And it's right next door.
Because I want to be closer. I just feel like I should be closer to like Jim and PJ and some getting these big ones. It's like, but I'm working so hard. So, anyway.
It's on weather too.
I like that little neighborhood.
Funding request to be
And it all
lower than
depends
last year.
on weather.
Yeah.
for
All
walking.
because of the fire truck. Once you take that fire truck out, that
That's $30,000.
cover all of your increases.
Yeah, and then we took out 12,300.
Off of it.
That's last year.
And I'll email that out too, so you can see I'll have my spreadsheet calculate it for me, but yeah.
It's. I saw that he is actually made an announcement. Looking at different speakers, they're gonna be trying
He
different
is looking.
speakers, yeah. Yeah, I was gonna check. Not to leave some smaller. That hopefully should help, and then he recommended some acoustic panels that we can.
Where are they gonna put them on the ceiling?
No, they go on the walls.
On the wall.
So that would be.
Helpful. Yeah.
And those are not horribly expensive compared to the initial outlay.
Thank you all for considering that stipend. I've been asking the comp board for that for a few years and it wasn't getting through there,
Well,
so.
a lot of auditors don't do
No.
all the work that we do.
There's a lot of work.
And we sure appreciate it.
Thank you.
The historical side of everything that you know is extremely valuable.
Thank you. I didn't bring that schedule of who's coming in which order. Do you? It's on, I do the email.
Well, the last one.
Well,
moves up.
the last one, nobody gets. moved.
No, I'm talking about, the special meeting they're having now.
Oh,
The
yeah.
With
Tim
the
and
department
Jane
head.
and Faith and so on.
I can't get that printer to print what I sent. I don't know why.
That's a good idea.
IT, you can shut off the meeting because they aren't here anymore. Thank you.
Thank you.